It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Indoor racing with heaters. So it's, realistically, with as cold as it is this weekend, it's probably going to be about 45 or 50 inside, which when you walk inside, feels like a sauna. So great indoor racing at Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs.
If anybody's looking for a part-time job, Buddy's looking to hire some track stewards over there at Joe's Karting.
I know they have a great package, too. If you go over there and work for him, I think you get like a free race every
so many hours or something.
So,
he says you can earn free racing and whatnot. You'll have to contact Buddy as far as your hours and everything. I just saw it on Facebook. Thought I'd throw it out there for him.
Good deal there. And I got to say a big thank you to Pat Eccles of Eccles Heating and Air. First off, I should say I'm not a paid spokesperson. Pat is a supporter of this show, which is the reason why I gave Pat a call when my heater decided to take a dump during the the first cold spell that we had right around Christmas Day.
Well, it's a good thing it's going to be working for the second one.
Yeah, and what I was most impressed with, Pat took time out of his vacation in Maryland with his son to go over some troubleshooting ideas with me, got the heater running for a few days, and then when it died again, he landed in Omaha on December 26th, day after Christmas, at 8 o'clock, drove home to Ralston, put his luggage in, got his shop truck, drove over to my house, and worked on it for another hour and a half. Finally ended up figuring out it was a bad motherboard and came back and replaced it the next morning. And the heater's been working great ever since. I'm totally blown away that Pat did that for me. And quite frankly, I'm blown away at the price I paid. He's a one-man shop, and he's got some people that kind of help out with him a little bit here and there. So the prices are very affordable. Again, I'm not a paid spokesperson. This is just my own consumer testimonial, and I wanted to say a big thank you to Pat. And Eccles Heating and Air is a proud supporter of the front stretch. We do appreciate Pat supporting the show, so I threw a little business his way. And, man, I can't tell you, it's when you're sitting in your house and it's 50 degrees in the house, and the cats, I've got 3 cats, and they're trying to keep me warm. We're all conserving heat together, and it was a tough couple of days until that heater got up and running again, especially with as cold as it was outside. So can't say thank you to Pat enough. Make sure you go and talk to him, as it's, we're hitting another cold spell. So if you got some emergency work to be done, Pat answers his phone call at all hours of the day, and he'll come over and help you out. All right, for today's show, we're going to take a quick turn 1 because we have an action-packed turns 2, 3, and 4. The New Deal. The New Deal, Hudson O'Neal, son of Don O'Neal, who is the inaugural Silver Dollar Nationals winner. Hudson's going to join us to talk about his rookie season with the Lucas Oil late models and winning Rookie of the Year. Then in turns 3 and 4, we're going to continue our Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt series with Roger Hadan. And I'll tell you right off the bat, Roger's interview lasted about 45 minutes, but because we had Hudson O'Neal, who gave us a great 16, 17 minutes, we had to cut some of the Roger Hadan interview out, and we had to trim up some of the Hudson O'Neal interview too. So if you want to hear the full interview, it'll be up on the Front Stretch Facebook page. We'll post the link at about 10 a.m. this morning. It's a YouTube link and on the Stitcher app. So if you don't have the Stitcher app yet, it's free to have, free to create your account, free to listen to podcasts all over the country. It's a great little app. Head on over to the Stitcher, download it, and then search for the Front Stretch. All of our shows, I think from about July is when we got our account up and running. All of our shows are up there, and that's going to be an extended show. The full length of the show is going to be was about an hour and 27 minutes. So I had to cut a considerable amount of time out of the show for it to fit into our hour window here on AM 590. So, if you want to hear the full show, it's available at about 10 a.m. this morning. But Hudson O'Neal in turn 2, Roger Hadan in 3 and 4. And I think Roger, as he usually does, gave us some great details.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of information about the promoting side, because Roger had his a fairly short career as a driver, 12 or 15 years, and then switched over, did the car owner thing for his kid for several years, and then got into the promoting world and has now had that for 10 or 12 years. So a couple of Promoter of the Year awards and things like that in there. So been successful at everything he's done in racing.
Probably one of the most successful weekly tracks since Sunset Speedway. I think you can draw a lot of comparisons to the car count and crowd count.
Well, you can do that, but I've been to a lot of the facilities in the Midwest, and outside of I haven't been to Lucas Oil Raceway down there in Wheatley, but I heard it's a phenomenal speedway and everything they've done. But Eagle is a very nice racetrack, very nice facility. Well, you work there, so you know exactly what I'm saying. And but I've been to a lot of tracks that, you know, it just you can't believe that they got 2,000 people in the stands, but they do. But Eagle, you know, that's one of the things they've got going. Is just a lovely facility.
He pays attention to a lot of the small details that pays off for the drivers, and you kind of wonder of the racing cog, which one is the most important. And Roger seems to focus a lot on the speed of the show and the quality of the racing, and a lot of his rules and his procedures circulate around that. And when drivers see that they can get there and be in and out in 4 hours rather than 6 or 8 hours, they're more prone to come to that track no matter how far they got to drive. And when fans know that there's 200 and some odd cars in the pits, that their $10 to get in is going to be worth more than another track that they only get about 85 cars or 75 cars. So it's a lot of the things he does, people can say, well, don't know what Roger's thinking with that. That's kind of a dumb move, but a lot of them a lot of the procedures that the people have questioned have paid out in the end for him, and especially with the 305 move, it's really paid out, and it's helped a lot of the local sprint car drivers be able to afford continuing sprint car racing, and it's pulled some drivers out of the A mods, out of the sport mods, late models, and to try out this class because it's so inexpensive to go and run. So that's all coming up in today's show. We're going to take a break. We're going to end it for today. And by the way, final show of 2017.
Are you sure?
I did the math. I double checked because we know me, and I can be off on my facts every once in a while.
Well, it was just a couple of weeks ago. He said it's the final show of 2016.
Yeah, I know. And what a year it has been. If you want to hear any of our shows throughout the 2017 season, it's available on our YouTube channel. You can find the link on our Facebook page. Just search The Front Stretch, and a ton of pages, a ton of videos will come up because most of our shows from 2014 and on are up there. So all those interviews can be up there. If you've got a favorite driver, I bet we've had him on The Front Stretch. And what a lineup we had this year for some drivers. Yeah,
we talked to a lot of people in person and on the phone.
Been to a lot of great racetracks. Eagle, Knoxville, went there twice, and Iowa Speedway and Kansas Speedway, and Lakeside.
St. Louis.
Yep.
And the Dome.
Yep, went to the Dome. Yep. So a big year, and we're hoping next year's going to be even better. The way we're going to make it better for you fans, because we're always looking for ways to improve it, every weekend we're going to do a giveaway. So we gave away a Jordan Grabowski autographed poster for the Charlie Clark Memorial. And starting next week, every single weekend, we're going to give something away. We're going to start off with autographed hero cards. We're going to transition into race tickets as the season gets going. So we got a big year lined up for you fans. Expect to win something every single weekend. That's going to do it for us in turn number 1. We'll be back in turn number 2. The New Deal, Hudson O'Neal, will join us, and then Roger Hadan for turns 3 and 4. We'll be back here on The Front Stretch.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
This week's young gun on The Front Stretch is 19-year-old Neil Nicolite, who's been racing since he started at Mini E and Little Sunset Speedway at the age of 12. Neil kicked off his career in flat karts, winning the Mini E Championship in the Junior 2 Medium class, and followed it up the next year with the title in the Junior 2 Medium and Heavy class. After taking a season off, Neil joined the Race Saver class at Eagle Raceway in 2017, where he should be a top contender for Rookie of the Year. 2018 is going to be a big year for Neil, as he is eyeing a top 15 finish in the points at Eagle while traveling to US 36 on select nights for more experience. Neil wants to win a track championship at Eagle Raceway before moving on to the 360 class and competing weekly at Knoxville. Keep your eye out next season for the 12N Classic Sand and Gravel T&K Pit Stop CK Race Saver driven by Neil Nicolite. This week's Young Gun has been presented by Craig Kelly of Sarah Kelly & Sewell Personal Injury Attorneys.
For almost 70 years, Sarah Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 2, brought to you by Quaker Steak & Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Get on down to Quaker Steak & Lube today. Watch all the football action as it kicks off on all the broadcast networks and enjoy some of the best food and spirits that the Midwest has to offer down at Quaker Steak & Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch.
And wings, lots of wings.
Oh, the best. Joining us on the show now is Rookie of the Year for the Lucas Oil Late Model Series. I think all of 16, unless I'm shorting you a year, Mr. Hudson O'Neal. How you doing, bud?
Oh, not too bad. And it just turned 17 in September. So sadly, I wasn't able to do it. I mean, I did most of the season while I was 17, but it'd been pretty awesome to be crowned at 16. But, part of it. But just happy to be here and, excited for this.
So all of 17, you drawing Social Security yet or what?
That's right.
I saw a video you were talking about how much of a pleasure it was to be around all these old guys, and it got me to thinking, that may have been a little bit of a faux pas, but it wasn't too far from the truth. Most of these guys are kind of ancient.
I don't know about all that, but yeah, for sure. It's really great to be around some of those guys and be as seasoned as they are and, be real veterans in our sport. And, it's pretty cool to be able to learn from the best.
Well, talk about learning from the best. You can't get much of a better teacher than your dad. Kind of run through it for a couple of people who may not have heard your story growing up, working with your dad, and kind of getting the learning the ropes.
Well, for sure. I mean, we started this dirt stuff about 3 years ago, but that's not actually what I started in. I didn't race go-karts or anything. I actually started on asphalt. I raced my first 2 full years of my first 2 years of my career on asphalt. And, we did that under Lance Landers and Mark Martin. And, Lance Landers has been a big help in my whole, even on this dirt stuff in my whole racing career. And, of course, that's Jared Landers' dad. So, they've always been great supporters of my career. And, he gave me my initial break and, really gave me my first opportunity to get behind the wheel of something. And that all just came back to being a favor he was giving the dad. And Dad told him, that was the best gift he could get was just to let me make some laps in a truck that his other son was racing at the time. And it ended up, blossoming into a two-year deal that we ran the truck and a pro truck and a pro late model on there at New Smyrna Beach in Orlando Speed World and just a couple places down there around the Daytona Beach area and then we decided that the asphalt route wasn't exactly the route that we wanted to go at the time. And with my dad and everything, how much asphalt costs. My dad he didn't have the money to do it, and we just decided that we wanted to go dirt races, and that was something that my dad could afford to do fairly well. Obviously not the best of the best, but fairly well and be competitive. So we got started in there. I think it was 2015 was my first full year racing for my dad. We started at the end of 2014 and went through 2015, and I raced for my dad. And then we got there for a couple races. We ran there for Brian Bowman, and that was just a couple races there. And then now my car owner, my current car owner is Todd Burns, and I started driving for him at the beginning of the 2016 season, and we raced a full year there at Brownstown and across Indiana and northern Kentucky and just some places right around there. And I think we recorded like a really, really good crate record there. And so then we started there late last year. We got a super late model, and this was my first full year in a super. And, he's really gave me a great opportunity to do what I love and put me out on this road to be able to do this. It's just amazing. And, for him to believe in me is just crazy. And, it's just hard to believe that I did this at, 16, 17 years old. And I'm just really looking forward, for the years to come.
There is animosity between the dirt world and the asphalt world. Was there any animosity towards you when you decided with who your dad was to go asphalt racing?
You know what? There was a lot of people that, for the situation that I was kind of put in, if my dad was just to buy all the asphalt stuff, I'm sorry, here I'm walking in my house.
That's right.
But if it was something like my dad just bought all this asphalt stuff with no intention of driving for anybody or anything, yeah, there might be a little bit. But since the opportunity was presented, and in that case, there really wasn't a whole lot, and it was actually a pretty good opportunity for me to do. And I think it was just a really, really healthy friendship that we built there with Lance, and I think one that'll last a lifetime. And but like I said, there was just a little bit, like, people didn't really understand it completely, but I think once they realized the situation that we were in and the opportunity we had to do it, I think, it kind of calmed down a little bit.
That's good. I mean, because I could imagine when you were talking about that, thinking like there'd be some guys in the dirt world going, "Hey, wait a minute now, your dad's made a pretty good living beating up on us. Why you got to go do that asphalt thing?"
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that was the situation. But like I said, just given the opportunity I had, that was the biggest thing. Just the opportunity was just, you couldn't hardly turn it down.
Because your dad's a little bit of a legend up here. We're in I-80 Speedway land with the Silver Dollar Nationals, and he won the inaugural back, I believe it was in 2011. And that race is now, the purse is more than doubled. I think he won $25,000 paid in silver dollars that first race, I remember, and now it's up paying $53,000 to win.
Yeah, and what a race they have created there, and I love going there. And a lot of these drivers, they don't like. That's one of the only places we do the passing points deal, and a lot of people don't like it, which I can understand a little bit. It is hard on equipment, but being a racer, like, I love it, and it just. But I mean, that might just be because I'm young and I like to go around in circles too. But but a lot of these guys don't like it. Like, my dad isn't a big fan of it, and just Scott and just Josh, and just a lot of these guys aren't big fans of it. And they say it puts you in positions to tear stuff up, and which is understandable. It does, but I really love it. I love doing that passing point stuff. We get to run 2 heat races. Also we get to run 100 laps, and it's not like if you get in an easy heat race or something. I don't want to say that. But like, if you qualify good, you know what I mean, you're pretty bound. You're gonna, you're gonna probably make the show. So it just puts that little bit of difference. Like, you actually have to race and be up on the wheel to make the show, and that's something that I really, really like. Or just something like Eldora, where you do the 2 preliminary nights and the points set you up like that. I really like that stuff too. But I don't get why a lot of people don't like that, but that's a really fun event for me, and there's very few places that are like that.
Talk a little bit about your racing style. What do you think is your strongest asset that has helped you so far in your career?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't know if this really helped, but being young and kind of, I don't know about fearless, but not being afraid as much. And I don't know if that's because I don't have the experience and I accept how much I can probably get hurt, or if I'm just young and dumb, or what exactly is all that is. But and I think speaking of Jared Landers, like we were earlier, Jared was one of them guys too. Like, but I mean, you kind of if something's not working and there's time to give up on it, but you also know and it's kind of like, just like Jared, he was going to be the first one to take that chance to get up around the top, bounce off the wall. He was just known he was that guy. You knew he was going to be the first one to try it if it was there. But there's a point where you kind of got to accept that it ain't going to work or something, and you got to know when to do it, when not to do it. And I'm still kind of learning that part. I'd say I've tore up just a couple race cars probably doing something stupid like that. But it's I think that's the biggest thing, just being young and just being up on the wheel all the time. I think it helps me a little bit.
Well, I got to say your poise is quite well developed for your age. After watching you win that preliminary feature there in St. Louis at the Dirt in December, you got out front and you just did your thing. You didn't let the guys teasing you and trying to stick the nose on the outside of you bother you, or sticking the nose underneath you bother you. You just drove your race.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Funny story about that. They were they do those interviews, like, you got a red flag, they come out there and interview on the racetrack, and I think it was Blake Anderson walked out there from Dirt on Dirt, walked out there, and he was like, "You want to do an interview?" And I was like, No, I don't want to do an interview. I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to stay calm. And but that's all it is. You just kind of got to stay calm and just make sure you don't get flustered. biggest thing, because you get flustered and then you get to you get to overdriving it, and that's the biggest thing. You just got to stay calm and make sure you hit your line every time.
Yeah, well, you did a good job of it, and I know, or one thing that I should say surprised me just a little bit was the time constraint you guys got put under down there. They didn't give you guys a whole lot of time to do much. I mean, they ran you out, fairly early on Friday night, so you could have worked on the car for an hour or two if you were somewhere else, and then didn't let you in too awful early on Saturday.
Yeah, no, that was something I was a little surprised about. I think even the year before this year, where they let them in a little earlier, and to be let in at 11 and start at 3, that's not much time. And then the drivers, we had a drivers meeting there at 1, and we didn't get out of that till 1:30 or 1:45, and that's not a whole lot of time to work on stuff, and 4 hours seems like a lot, but it's not a lot whenever you're trying to get your race car better. But that was just it's part of it, and that's the situation you're given, so you just kind of have to mold and adapt to that.
Well, I didn't mean to scare you when I was down there and I come walking into your trailer and you just hooking a shock up on the dyno and close that cabinet real quick. There's another spy coming in here.
Yeah, that's something that we kind of got to be careful with. We got some people walking in and out of the trailer all the time, and you kind of got to be a little bit cautious about who's walking in, and because how this game is anymore. It's all about just finding it before somebody else.
Espionage is one of the key elements to victory lane. Sending somebody to take pictures of a rear end, or sneaking a glimpse of a shock sheet and a dyno sheet, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's unfortunate because you break a lot of trust that way, but it seems to be becoming a part of the sport.
Yeah, for sure. And you kind of hire some people. It's crazy to think that some of the stuff people are coming up with anymore, and it's crazy to think how smart some people are, and like you said, it's just becoming part of our sport anymore, and information is just more important than ever right now.
Talk a little bit about some of the guys that help you get up and down the road during the Lucas Oil Series and some of your fine sponsors.
Yeah, for sure. We had Zach Fields. He was a big help there last year, and he ended up leaving. I think he's working for Chris Simpson now out of Iowa there. But we also had Josh Pitcher. He's been a big help, and he's still with me this year. And then Todd Burns for owning everything and just giving me the opportunity to do what I love and go out on the road every week. And it's just great for somebody to believe in me. And he does a lot for a lot of people around home, and is a big sponsor to a lot of people, and I think, and he owns like 3 or 4 race teams. So a lot of people miss that they just see me out on the road and stuff, but they miss him owning all these other race cars and helping all these other people out, and we just need more people like him in the sport, and hopefully he stays in it for a long time to come. And but as far as sponsors goes, we had Dyno One on at the Dome, and Tarpey Trucking, they do a ton for me, and have been a huge supporter of not only me but my dad's career. They used to help my dad back in the day, and they kind of passed that on to me, and they're just great family friends and do a lot for me. And then of course, Mark Martin Automotive with Lance Landers and Mark Martin and all them guys down there in Batesville, Arkansas, and Penske Racing Shocks, Nick, Ronnie Crooks, and Aaron, and just all them guys there, and they do a lot, and they're always there by my side whenever I need them. And I'd say you've probably seen a Penske Racing Shocks on the dyno whenever you walked in there. So it's pretty cool to have them be such a big support, and Swiss Springs, and there's just so many. FK Rod-Ins, Maria, she's big 49ers fan, so if you ever see her, maybe give her a bust about the 49ers or something. So but it's great to build all these very healthy relationships, and to be part of this community and have everybody surrounding you is just phenomenal. And there's just so many people that help out and make this possible, and it's hard to remember all of them, but just very fortunate.
Well, with Bobby Pierce coming on tour with you guys this year, going to be in that Dunn Benson car, that's going to give you a little bit of a challenge because he's very talented. But if he stays on the tour, you're on the tour, you get a few new younger faces in there because, Bloomer and your dad and these guys are getting up there in years. I think the Lucas Oil Series and be in good hands for a few years to come as long as you guys all keep your rides.
Oh, for sure. My gosh, how tough this deal is becoming, and that's something we were talking about there in the middle of the year. we were just, all sitting around one night, it was a 2 or 3 day show, and there's a bunch of 4 or 5 drivers just sitting around, and we were discussing how important it really is to have 2 national series, and because it's no secret. If you know anything about it, it's just there's not enough money to go around to support all of these racing teams and everything. But whenever you have 2 series like that, it makes it better, because we can go and, usually World Outlaws is racing somewhere for at least 10,000 every weekend, and Lucas Oil is racing for somewhere for at least 10,000 every weekend. So, that's a lot of money to be either passing out and everything. And to have 2 series like that is very, very great. But then you kind of see that, all these people are coming over here to Lucas Oil. I mean, we're going to have 12 or 13 guys that can go out and win every single night, and like last year we had probably 7 or 8 last year that you were going to be up front every race. And then, you go on to, and then next year you're going to have 12 guys that can do that every week. And it's going to be really, really tough. And that's just what Lucas Oil wants to see. But then again, I think it's going to hurt, World Outlaws a little bit, because you're going to have all these great guys. And World Outlaws is still going to have good guys. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? You're going to have Shepard, and you're going to have Mike Marlar, and I don't know if Moran's still running it or not. But, and I don't know if Clanton's going to run it or not. But you got a lot of great guys over there still, but you're losing some people that, run over there. They don't even have to run over there every week, but a lot of weeks, and they come over here and run this deal. It's making it dominant over here at Lucas Oil. And, but I mean, as far as everything goes, it'll be great. And, it'll be a big learning curve again, if you have all these great guys. And, but I mean, there's ups and there's downs to it, but, I mean, it's going to make the racing a whole lot better, and it's going to, I think, draw more fans. So, what more can you ask for?
Looking at 2018, when you look back at your results for 2017, you got really close on the Lucas Oil Series to picking up your first ever win. You did get a couple of wins off of unsanctioned and local races. So when you look forward to your 2018 Lucas Oil Series, do you look at it and say, this is the year I got to get a win, or are you going to still chalk it up as more of a learning year?
Obviously it's going to be a learning year still. This was only my first full year, and I still have a lot to learn. But I kind of expected to get a win last year, and it didn't happen. And, but to get a win at the Dome is pretty cool too. And, that was probably just the biggest win in the Lucas race. And, there was a lot of cars there at the Dome, a lot of race cars. And, but yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I need to win one this year. There's not much question about it. I need to win one this year. And I came so close. And even there at I-80, I think I had a really good race car. I think I would have ran top 2 there at I-80, and then, I just, rookie mistake. I got into the fence there on the last lap, and I think I ended up 9th, which, was really unfortunate, and I kicked myself in the butt about that one for a while. But there's just a lot of racetracks that I was really, really close, and I led some laps at Lawrenceburg, and, and I had a really, really good night there at Lawrenceburg, and I think I had a shot at winning that one too if I wouldn't have, if I would have just moved around and tried to find the new groove, and they, everybody just found it before I did, so, sucks, or, the downfall being the leader, I guess. But, that's just part of it. And, and that's what I kept telling myself. And, I was just telling myself, God's going to put this in your hands whenever he thinks you've learned enough and made all the right decisions. He's going to let you win a race. And that's just kind of the way I look at it. And, I think just as long as we keep plucking away at it and, just keep working hard, one of these has got to fall in our hands, even if we don't win it, by being the best car. If we win it by somebody falling out, I better be lucky than good any day. But we'd really like to win it by being the best car. So I think as long as we just keep working hard at it and, just paying our dues, I think one will come our way soon.
Hudson O'Neal in the 71, you'll see him in May for the Go 50 at I-80 Speedway, and then back again in the middle of July for the Silver Dollar Nationals, $53,000 to win. You can catch him anytime in the Lucas Oil Series and find him on Facebook. Thanks a lot for your time, bud. Have a good holiday season.
Yeah, you guys too. Thanks for the interview. Real fun.
Anytime. Thanks. Have a good one.
Yep, you too.
Thanks,
Bye.
Hudson.
Well-spoken young man. You see that a lot in this sport, too.
Well, that's what I told you when I walked into his trailer, and I'm looking for Hudson O'Neal. He goes, well, that's me. And I'm going, no, you're like 12 years old. But, But very well spoken. Was very polite. Like I said, he closed the door on the shock dyno. Wasn't letting me take a peek in there.
Where were we at down in Kansas when we were interviewing somebody, and the marketing girl said no pictures in the hauler.
Yeah,
just there wasn't anything out, but she didn't want to take a chance, and no pictures.
That might have been the Matt Tiff deal.
I think it was Alex Bowman when he was filling in for Dale in May.
That could be.
I think it was Alex, because the Matt Tiff girl did let us take pictures, but she had to review them. All the funds of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of like talking about espionage is a part of the sport. I mean, we've seen it at the Silver Dollar Nationals. Whoever's standing in victory lane, there's always a couple of other crewmen taking pictures of the back end of that car trying to figure out what they did.
Because the tarp ain't on there, secret tarp.
Yep, it's just it's a part of the sport. So good interview with Hudson. We're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 3. We'll kick off this weekend's Legends of the Dirt Series presented by Kosiski Auto Parts on the front stretch on AM 590 Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Have you ever watched NASCAR, dirt track, or IndyCar and thought, I could do that? Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs is the place to put your money where your mouth is. Races fire off every 10 minutes, so what are you waiting for? Get to Joe's Karting on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs, next to the Mid-America Center, and find out how easy it is to drive a race car. Each Joe's Karting car is powered by an eco-friendly Honda engine capable of a 14-second lap. That's if you're as good as you think.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 3, and we're continuing our Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt series. This weekend, we're talking with a driver, promoter, and owner, and creator, I think you could say. You've created a local series. You've promoted a track. You now own a track. Well, you've owned a track while you've promoted it, and you used to be a driver. Roger Hadan, how you doing, bud?
Hi, how you doing, guys?
We're doing great. Get up here if you got a drink there, so we're going to get you nice and relaxed, and we're going to have a good time tonight. For the next half an hour, we're going to talk about Roger, all about his career. First 15 minutes, I figured we'd talk about your time behind the wheel. I've heard a lot of stories about the Roger Hadan, the promoter and the owner. I haven't heard a lot of stories about Roger Hadan, the driver. So I want to get some of those stories kind of worked up and talk about your time as a driver and how that's influenced your time as an owner, if it's influenced it at all. So let's kick it all off and talk a little bit about it. I know you've got a son that races because of you. Did your dad race?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he probably ran about, 8 or 10 years. He didn't run all that much, but he was a low-budget guy and raced when he could.
And you got to go to the track with him, and kind of that's how you got your exposure?
Yeah. Actually, I was even born in the parking lot of the racetrack because of my dad.
Well, the more interesting story, were you conceived at the racetrack because of a win? Or
might have been. Never know.
I think your first actual seat time was in Dad's car, too, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I actually stole his car while he was on vacation and took the car and went to the track because the track was only like 2 or 3 blocks away. So I just drove it over there and raced it while he didn't even know that I had it.
That's a good time to do it. Most kids are throwing parties while their parents are away. You're stealing his race car.
Yep.
Roughly what, about 1980, 81?
I'd say you're about right.
Somewhere
pretty close, probably 79 or 80, because I was about 14.
Yeah, I would say you were 14 or 15. You don't even have a driver's license.
I did not.
Well, before I was born. What track did you say that your dad and you raced at?
Mostly at Sunset Speedway.
Was Eagle around at that time?
Yes, but we were low budget and we could not travel that far. This track was just not very far away, so we just raced there mostly.
Dan, since you're new to the sport, it was the last name of Hayden that built Sunset Speedway.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it was actually my grandfather who built it, so I was always around there anyway.
So did your grandfather drive too, or is he just a promoter owner?
He drove one time, and the way I understand it was some kind of maybe a figure 8 type of a race thing, and there was a tree in the middle of the track, and He sucked as a driver, I guess, so he ran into the tree, and my grandmother said he'd never race again. So he was a car owner at that point.
And then I had no idea that he built the Sunset Speedway. That's got to be kind of cool to have that in the old family history.
Yeah, it's created a lot of problems.
Well, tell more. What problems?
Well, because of that, then people get stupid and think they can build or operate other racetracks like me, and then I always want to think that we can have Sunset Speedway type days again, where racing was real important back in the day, it seemed, and people would come to the races from all over the area and come watch, and I kind of always think that I can fill grandstands like they used to at Sunset Speedway, and it's not as easy nowadays.
Well, you do occasionally.
Occasionally. Yep.
Yeah, you do it a lot more often than most people do.
We try hard.
Yeah, you guys do a good job there at Eagle Raceway.
I have a lot of people who are behind us on this racing deal at Eagle, and I mean, without the people that helped, we'd never make it work.
It really is a bunch of people. I mean, I got the pleasure of working there this year and seeing the back end of it, the side of it that a lot of people don't see, and it's a well-run machine, and I think you guys should be proud.
Oh, there's Roger and 2 tech guys, isn't that it?
Yep. No, there's a fire crew, and there's Roger's daughter that kind of runs a lot of the things, and Roger's wife that helps runs a lot of things, and it's kind of a family business, isn't it?
Yep, always got to be. It seems the guys that appear to do the best with the racetracks appear to be family owned.
Yeah, it's honestly, I think the key to that is that it's cheap labor, and that's important for a racetrack.
Well, somebody's accountable too, It's, I'm doing this for my dad, I'm going to make sure and do a good job, or I'm doing it for my brother. When you're an employee as opposed to family, it's a whole different deal.
Let's talk more about your driving career. We wanted to talk about that in the first turn, as we're getting set for today's Legends of the Dirt series. And your time as a race car driver, you said the first time, or you actually stole your dad's car, early 80s. We discovered that when you'd done that. When did you really get addicted to it to where you knew that it was going to be a driving thing for you?
Well, I bought a car from Dirk, actually, and it had no motor. So I was trying to decide how I was going to get to race. I was probably about 16 at that time. And luckily, my parents went on vacation again, and I took the motor out of my dad's car, put it in my car that I'd bought from Dirk, and I don't remember what they called them back then.
Broncos.
Oh, yeah, Broncos. And
60HUL.
drove it up to Sunset Speedway again, and off I was racing. And by the time my parents got back, I had saved up enough money to where I could put his motor back in his car without him noticing, and got my motor put together, and I was racing for maybe a couple years then.
I'm noticing a pattern here of when your dad goes on vacation, you get something new.
Yep, you are correct. And then, so I raced a couple years, and then I ended up building a transmission shop. Needed a place to make a living, because if I was going to be a race car driver, I had to be in the automotive business. So we started a tranny shop, and really I worked my tail off there for about 10 years without racing at all. And at that time, my dad started racing again more often, and I kind of backed him with money from the tranny shop and sponsorship from the transmission shop. So really, I never raced again until I was about upper 20s, low 30s.
Why the break? It was just it's too expensive, just kind of
Cubic
phased
dollar.
out.
Cubic dollars. I had to work on earning money, not spending it. I wanted to make sure that I had a business that I could survive and live the way I wanted to live.
It's pretty easy to spend a lot more than you make in this industry.
Yeah, back then it wasn't so bad because you were able to do a lot of stuff yourself. I was listening to Glenn a little bit, Roby, and back then you did a lot of stuff yourself. You put some of the engine stuff together yourself. You built some of the car yourself. You were able to do the maintenance yourself. That's something you really don't see much of nowadays. Heck, there's people can't even adjust a rocker arm nowadays.
Yeah.
And to me, that's really discouraging, but it's the facts.
Yeah, $40,000 rocker arm, right?
It appears that way.
So you took some time off working on Auto Transmatic, getting that up and running. That was the name of the business, right? Back then? Okay.
Yep. And then we went ahead and bought a mod, and I started racing mods in probably about 85. We traveled around quite a bit then, actually, and we went to Harlan, Denison, Park Jefferson, and then ran the IMCA Nationals with the mod every year. And I did that for about 5 years is all. And then I got to a point where we won quite a few races. The final straw was I'd won 33 races in the mod. Or is that right? No, sorry. I won 30 races in the mod in 1987. And there was a $350 claim at that time, and I got claimed 33 times in 1 year. So that was a lot of work. So then I decided, you know what, I think I'm going to run a late model.
So you won 33 races that year?
30
races that year.
Yeah,
How many did you race?
I raced about 85, 90 times.
That seems to be about the magic number for drivers to be able to really start to kind of get their own groove.
Yep, and that got me into an area where I was, I think I ended up third in the national points, and it was an IMCA deal, all the tracks I went to, and I really liked racing for the points. I wasn't really ever a money racer because I really honestly wasn't good enough. I knew I couldn't make money racing, so I'm sorry,
you just said you weren't good enough, and yet you won 30 races in a year.
But he won 30 weekly shows. He didn't win the World 100 30 times.
Right. Yeah, it was all. Okay. I don't even know what it paid then, $200-300 or something, type deals.
It didn't cover the claim of the motor. That's for sure.
No.
That claim rule, it's interesting because it's one of those things that when you look at it on the surface, you say, well, that's a good idea to keep the cost in place, but for the guy getting claimed, it can get pretty annoying and costly.
Well, I can tell you that I probably didn't even have a motor that had $300 of parts in them at that time, because you were able to compete with stuff that you're pulling out of a salvage yard motor and doing a little bit of machine work to it, and you'd race it. That was the day. Nowadays, that's not the case at all. And that's why the crate motor came along nowadays, and that's why 99% of the guys appear to have crates. Is you don't have to do all that work yourself anymore. You just use somebody else's stuff.
Yep.
Well, the chassis were so basic, and you still got that same size tire, so you couldn't put 600 horsepower to the ground with a modified. If you had 350 or 400 horsepower, you had more than enough.
Yeah, it was. In those days, I mean, I'm not totally foolish. I mean, I know nowadays it's a complete package. You got to have a good motor, a good car, a good driver. Back then, I think really, if you had a good driver, you were pretty good shape on winning races.
You could overcome a bad car and a bad motor.
Yeah.
But now the motors and the cars can overcome a bad driver.
Yep, everything's evened up. Back then there was winners and losers. Nowadays everybody's on an even playing field pretty much.
Moving on to the late models, you said that you decided to move up to the late models after getting tired of getting claimed so many times. There must not have been a claim rule in late models, or it was a different rule?
No, it was back then. It was the Busch All-Star Tour, and I ran a lot at Sunset. They had a weekly a NASCAR show there, and Park Jefferson had a NASCAR show there. So I ran a lot of the NASCAR type late model stuff, and did some touring with it also with the Busch All-Star Tour, I think it was. I really enjoyed doing the late model deal, but quite honestly, I didn't have the budget for it to compete with the Kosiskis and Zeitners and some of them types of guys. So pretty much I was on the lower end of the totem pole and had to drive the wheels off the thing to try to be competitive. So
it probably felt that much better when you got a win, though.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that was a good celebration.
Yep.
Didn't you go give Hava-Tampa a try one year and have the car kept down there in the south, and you'd run back and forth on the weekends and race 3 days and come home?
Yeah, I eventually got mad in about 89 at the local racing deal. So in about 89, I'd finally scrapped together enough money to put together a really nice motor. At the time, the rule was you could have, I got to think about this. I think the rule was you could not have 18-degree heads. So what I'd done is I bought a bare set of heads, 18-degree heads. Or I'm sorry, I bought a set of bare 23-degree heads, and I did all the machine work myself and everything, and we put valves in at 15 degrees and changed all the valve angles and all that stuff. Well, the heads weren't 18-degree heads, but the valve angle wasn't correct, I guess. But by the rules, it was legal. So anyway, that I'd won like 5 or 6 of the first 10 races of the season, and I was leading the points in the NASCAR weekly series and all that type of stuff. And then there was a lot of complaining going on, and I wasn't the favorite guy, I don't believe. So consequently, my motor was not really deemed illegal, but I couldn't run it anymore because they changed the rules in mid-season. And that was kind of a common NASCAR theme.
Still is.
Still is. So the rules changed in midstream. Well, then the guy who doesn't have a bunch of money, then you're in deep trouble. So I scrambled around. The rule changed then to the valve angles got to be within a couple degrees of original valve angle, so you could run like 21 to 23 degrees valve angle. So I bought a set of 15-degree heads and bought them bare, and I did all the same thing to them. And the problem was, by the time I'd done that, at the end of the season, I won like 5 or 6 races straight. But in between, I'd lost, enough ground on points that I ended up losing points to Joe Kosiski by 1 point at the end of the year.
That's got to be painful.
Yep. So that really ticked me off, and I decided I was going to go run the Have a Tampa series, which is now really like the World Outlaw late models.
Lucas Oil, one of them too, I guess.
Yep. So I went and did that for a couple years, and then I decided I wasn't willing to spend that kind of money.
Yeah.
So
that's big time money and big time touring. That's got to be exhausting. Dirk talked about you would work at the transmission shop during the week and then rush to the racetrack for 3 days of racing.
Yeah, we would. Back in those days, the races were always pretty much on Fridays and Saturdays. They were 100 lappers each day, usually 2 different tracks. So I'd send, I'd work on the car every night during the week, and then we'd send the car down with my parents down south, and then they'd haul down there a day or 2 early to get it down there, and that way I could stay at the shop and keep working. So I'd work days, nights, weekends, holidays, whatever it took to make sure that I could take off on like Thursday night. I'd pack my junk up and we'd jump in a van, and a bunch of us I'd drive all the way to wherever the race was, and I'd jump in the car, run a 100-lap feature, and then work on the car all night because we had to race the next day. So I'd work on the car all night, maybe take a nap in the afternoon, and then I'd race the Saturday night. And then I'd jump my happy behind into the vehicle, and we would haul butt home and go to work again Sunday. I'd usually be back Sunday night, and I'd start working Sunday night and not quit until we were racing again the following week. Sometimes if I didn't wreck too bad or have too many dilemmas, we could leave the car down there.
Tell Dan about that neat story where you set fast time one week.
Well, I went out with I had 2 cars with me. I'd built a stacker trailer, so I took 2 cars with me. And we unloaded the first car, and I wrecked that in hot laps. So then we unloaded the second car, but this was a really big track that we were at. So it was like 150-mile-an-hour wreck, and I ruined everything but the motor, and that was my big motor, and the other car had a small motor in it. So we tore the motor out of the car, put the big motor in it, and went out and ran the time trials, and ended up making the time trial, or winning the time trial, setting fast time and record time for the track and all that stuff, and the motor blew up as I went across the flag stand. So then we had to pull the motor back out and put the motor in that I took out of the car originally and run the small motor. And that was one of my best finishes, actually. We ended up running 3rd that day.
That was my good old camshaft I sold you, wasn't it?
Yep.
I sold Roger a lot of parts over the years.
Yep.
Were they any good?
Yeah, we put some stuff together out of whatever we could find.
He said fast time with my camshaft.
Yep.
We never did, but he did.
We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about this crazy scheme of yours to decide to be like your grandpa and own and run a track. And we'll see how that's going. Take a big old drink of that because it's going to be a long 15 minutes. We'll be back with Roger Hadan as a part of this week's Legends of the Dirt series here on the Front Stretch.
Fall has arrived, and so have the cold temperatures, but that doesn't mean you have to stay home. Get into Joe's Karting today and enjoy the Metro's largest fully heated indoor karting track. Get your friends together for a white-knuckle experience you can only find at Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Hours of operation, discounts, and lap times can be found online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. Get to Joe's Karting today and discover Council Bluffs' best-kept secret, 23rd Avenue next to Mid-America Center.
For almost 70 years, and Sarah Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch. Heading into turn number 4, continuing our Kosiski Auto Parts Legends of the Dirt series, talking with a legendary driver and now track owner and promoter. At what time did the racing start to wind down for you? And was there like a natural transition into into track ownership? Did purchasing the track ownership and the driving part of it? How did that whole thing come about?
Well, when I was running the Have a Tampa series at the end in the late model deal, I was busting my tail to try to make sure I was back at the tranny shop working. And 1 year in '89, I guess it was, I was winning the rookie points, and I ended up having the tranny blow up on the dyno, and it blew my hand apart and cut it off and stuff with about 3 races to go. So I wasn't able to finish the season. So that kind of made me mad. And then the following year, I'm running 5th in the points, overall points, and I had a transmission brake on the stand brake on my bench holding the transmission, and it ended up cutting all my fingers off.
Oh my God.
With a few races to go. So I figured maybe, between all that, I figured maybe it was a sign I wasn't supposed to be racing anymore. So I kind of had a bad attitude, and this is probably what got me in the most trouble, was my attitude sucked at the time. So I ended up putting some races on. So we did some topless late model races around our area, and I would rent tracks and we'd put shows on with the topless late models. And we did that about 6 times in, I think, '91. And I kind of enjoyed doing it. It was fun. It was a challenge. I'd been around, racetracks for years and years anyway, so I got to thinking to myself, you know what, maybe I can do this full time.
Well, and it probably gave you an aspect of being the driver when promoters would change things suddenly or, do whatever things you would think, why are they doing it that way? I mean, doesn't it make more sense to try it this way or to do it this way?
Yeah, I think overall a lot of the stuff that happens now at Eagle Raceway happens very slowly. I'm not real big on making big changes. I try to make sure rules don't change very much. The sprint car deal that we do at Eagle now, there's rarely ever any change. And that's what I like about it. I mean, I think anytime there's a change, it costs somebody money.
Yeah.
So I try to be really, really careful to make sure we don't make changes that cost drivers money if I can help it.
Well, and if they cost too many drivers money, that costs you money.
Yep. Overall, yeah, the end result would be us losing money.
And that is the end. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing is that you can easily make a rule that you think this is going to make sense. This will make not only it can make racing better and it can be cheaper for drivers, but it's still going to make somebody mad, and you may lose them as a driver.
You'll probably lose some, but more than that, you'll end up costing every single driver money. I mean, just the smallest change will cost somebody somewhere money.
Yeah. So you promoted a couple of topless races, and you kind of got a taste of it a little bit.
Yeah, a couple of the races were at Eagle Raceway, and so Craig Cormack owned it then, and he had a bad attitude too, I guess. And there was a day when just he had spent a lot of money on the place. I mean, it's an awesome place. It's really nice. and he had spent a lot of money. And he just got really upset one time because he didn't think the drivers appreciated him. And he got mad and wrote a letter that he was done with the racetrack. And that was after I'd put some races on there, some specials. And so he calls me, he's like, "You need to own this racetrack." And I'm like, "Oh, man, I don't think so. The place is pretty nice." And he's like, "Well, I'll make you a deal you can't refuse." Well, then he sends me this this deal, hey, it'll cost X amount of dollars. And I'm like, there's no way. I can never pay that off. I can do the dollars and cents. I sat at home and figured, and there's just no way that it was going to work. So the place ended up closing, and I drove by one day on the way to Lincoln, and there's a bunch of dozers sitting there and some scrapers, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, man, I don't know if the best track in the area should be closed up. It's kind of killing me that, I'd been to a bunch of the other tracks, probably every track in the area. And, I really always thought Eagle had the nicest layout and good to watch and good to race on and all that kind of stuff. And so I called him back up, and I go, "Hey, Craig, before you bulldoze this place down here," I said, "let's try this one more time." And, he came back with another dollar amount. And I'm like, "You need to lease it to me for a year. Let me make sure I don't go broke on this thing, and we'll give it a shot." So I leased it for the first year, and then we came to an agreement, and I ended up buying it.
And that's that layout that it is right now. Is that the way it's always been? Enter on turn 2, exit on turn 1?
Yeah, I think overall. I wasn't there years ago. I didn't race there much, but I believe the layout was pretty close to what it was. I remember as a kid sitting in the stands. And back then it was just wood planks, sitting kind of on
top of telephone posts and stuff.
Yeah, on telephone posts. But the thing, it was pretty rickety at one time, and Craig Cormack spent a bunch of money.
Burger King spent a
really
bunch of
nice.
money making that look really
yes.
nice.
Well, yep. And it truly is. I think that one thing that you guys have going for you, not one thing, but one of my favorite things that you guys have going for you, it's very conducive to today's consumers, because you seriously can't sit there and just the action. The races just keep rolling, and it's not hard for you guys to get a show done in 3 hours because of a lot of factors. But the fact that you roll in on turn 2 and you roll out on turn 1. And one can roll in while the other one's rolling out. They get lined up, take a lap, and they're going.
Yeah, that's something that wasn't happening before with the previous owner. And, we added some classes to make it financially work for us. So then, consequently, we had to come up with ideas to make this thing speed up. So with transponders, receivers, the drivers agreeing to be ready on time and staged and that type of stuff. Really, it's a team effort. Our drivers are the best in the country. There's no track got better drivers than us. Those guys will be ready without fail. If you need a track packed, they'll be there. You can't get that to happen at other places. They act like they own the place.
I wish I could disagree with you, but it really, I've been to not many tracks in the area, but the ones I've been to, I'll often sit there and think, what are they doing? What is going on right now? I'm as impatient and just a little bitty attention span as the next person. It's probably a 15-year-old kid. And if I got to sit there for realistically more than 10 minutes without anything going on the track, I get mad and I don't want to go back to that track, because you're sitting here thinking intermission shouldn't take longer than 5 or 10 minutes. Between races shouldn't take more than a minute. But some tracks, you just don't know what the heck they're thinking, because you guys have receivers just like everyone else. Get something on the track and let's get going.
Oh, Rod, you remember when we talked a couple of years ago up the Tiny Lund, when they ran lap after lap, and you came walking by, you were going to the restroom or something, and I said, "Don't they have receivers here?" And you said, "Yeah, they just evidently don't turn them on," and you kept right on walking.
One thing I'll give that to, I've heard so many people since I've gotten into this that their favorite thing about Eagle Raceway, it's actually their favorite thing and their most hated thing about Eagle Raceway, is the Roger Hadan rule. Roger is known to create a rule of something that happened the week before and slowed the show down or compromised the show, and you'll sit there at the driver's meeting, and it's not the Roger Hadan rule, but maybe this week it's the so-and-so rule because they spun on their own too many times, and if that happens, you're now, this or whatever. You'll make rules that encourage the drivers to get on their game and keep going.
Yeah, we actually do a deal. This is something that I talked about at the Promoters Workshop this year is we do a lot of stuff to try to keep the show going that nobody else wants to try. So I think the best thing that we do is actually that we have a deal with the drivers that if the A feature runs straight through, the drivers in that particular class, whatever it is, in that A feature, they get in free the following week.
Oh, wow.
So if the A mods run straight through, their feature, they get in free, those 20 drivers the following week. And all these other tracks, at these promoters workshops are like, well, you're giving up $2,000. And I'm like, dude, my attendance in the pits never changes. We can give the drivers 20 free passes the following week, and there's still that same amount of people there. So either they're bringing a friend with them because they know they're getting in free or something. But it sticks in my mind this one particular incident where there was a sport compact that came rolling to stop. Okay, got to keep in mind, these guys get paid $25 for their A feature. It costs $25 to get in the pits.
What is it, $60 to win or $65 to win or something like that?
Yeah, but the majority of them are getting $25, so they're getting their pit pass money back. So I remember this time where they'd gotten in free like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And there was a compact that started slowing down the straightaway, and he kind of puttered towards the inside, and he couldn't quite get off the track. Well, the last place guy in the sport compacts comes up, hits him in the back bumper, pushes them into the infield to make sure that they could get in free the following week. I mean, it's freaking awesome, but
That's
it's
awesome.
the stupid little things that make a difference.
That's interesting. I never knew that. I'd heard you on the radio before congratulate a group, saying, hey, guys, last week you guys had a great feature. You went right whole way through. Congratulations, way to go. Top-notch stuff. And I've heard you congratulate them before. I didn't realize they got in for free.
Yeah, most people don't. I mean, it's generally the drivers, and if I'm going to do something to try to speed up the show, it's going to affect the drivers. So I want them to be part of the effort that we're trying to make to try to get the show over. They all do an excellent job.
What have you been running at? That deal been around about, 3 years now? 3 seasons?
The Race Saver?
Free pit pass? At least 2.
The Race Saver deal?
Or the
free pit
Oh,
pass.
free passes? Oh, at least 3,
Yeah, I was going to say about 3
Quite a
years, I
few.
think.
And that's got to be big for drivers because it seems like you and I have had this private conversation where it seems like there's too many people that are willing to dip their hands into the drivers' pockets. But not enough people are giving them something back. Every track does the free admission and the fans get in for free, but it's always going after the drivers for more and more money.
Yeah, our driver appreciation night, we'll fill the stands. I say we. It's really nothing to do with me. It's the drivers. The drivers I produce tickets, give them to the drivers. The drivers get to give them to whoever they want. And as long as they keep filling the stands up, we'll keep giving them free tickets for one weekend a year. And they've really taken that to heart. And I mean, heck, this year I tried to always find some sponsor for the deal to try to come up with some kind of prize for the drivers. And this year, Hotsy gave away a $6,000 Hotsy.
Wow.
There you go.
And I mean, it was a pretty big deal. We had a lot of people trying really hard to make sure that they had the most tickets redeemed in the stands. So I mean, it's kind of weird. We'll sit at a promoter's workshop and the people up speaking, they'll talk about different things that they try, and our group of people who work at Eagle Raceway that go with me, they'll be sitting there and we'll all look at each other and we're like, well, shoot, we've been doing that 10 years. We think it's just normal now at this point.
Yeah. We're really kind of grazing over your time, but we're 15 minutes or 13 minutes into a 20-minute segment, so we got to kind of move along a little bit. But something I want to bring up, and I hope to God I don't forget it, so I want to bring it up right away, is this year at PRI, you won for a second time Promoter of the Year.
It was actually Race of the Year.
Race of the Year. Okay, I thought it was Promoter of the Year. My mistake.
Yeah, I think we probably will win that too.
Well, and you won Promoter of the Year before.
Yes.
And that was at PRI?
Yeah. And it's actually all over the whole country. But like I was talking to Mike Boston here about it a little bit ago. I mean, really, it's nothing to do with me. It's got to do with everybody. I mean, it's the drivers, it's the fans, it's my staff. Just everybody works really hard at trying to make this place the best place it can be. And I mean, heck, I've got people who've worked for me for probably 30, or worked for the track for 35 years or more. And I don't think they'd give up their Saturdays for anything other than being at the racetrack. That's what they love doing.
Well, and that's why I've really enjoyed about when I come out there and I'm able to work there now, is the fans are the same way. You see the exact same fan in the exact same spot every Saturday night. They've got their spot at Eagle Raceway that nobody else is going to sit in.
And it's kind of funny because a lot of their spots are not a spot. It's just standing, mingling, talking to other people.
Yep.
Heck, they don't even sit down ever through the whole night. They'll be holding a beer and talking to their friends and high-fiving each other. I mean, it's a good family or
holding
good
a beer
atmosphere.
at the races?
I was going to say family atmosphere. Holding a beer.
Some days it's family atmosphere. Talk about the early years of owning the track. There had to have been probably some rough times where you really kind of sat back and thought, what did I do?
Well, the very first year that I owned the track, out of the first 10 races, 8 of them rained out. And
I was there for some of them.
Yeah, that was a real struggle. My wife's wanting to kill me. My daughter's wanting to. Everybody wants to kill me. The drivers are unhappy. There's just absolutely nobody happy. So we ended up coming out okay. We lost some money and we were able to recoup and come back the following year, and we ran just dang near every race then. So it kind of goes up and down, and we've kind of come to realize that it's just part of the game.
That's one of the things that I learned a couple of years ago when I was talking to you, and I think it was a year that we had you on, and there had been 5 rainouts in 8 races. And you were talking about, there was a point where you were paying so much money because the track naturally costs money whether you run or not, that if you didn't start getting some races in, the bank account was going to start turning red.
Yeah, we've actually got it figured out that, I mean, I'll just tell you, it costs $40,000 to open the gate, minimum. And that's Eagle Raceway. I mean, it's $40,000 just to swing the gates open. So that's a lot of. There's no way the front gate's ever going to cover that. So I mean, there's got to be some front gate, back gate, concessions, everything to cover that. Now there's tracks that'll try to operate off of the back gate. I'm not that track. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that the guys get paid decent and get a comeback, and it's going to take all the gates to make that happen. So I want to make sure that we do a good job at making everybody happy.
And feel free to tell me to go fly a kite if I'm asking too sensitive of a question. But that $40,000, is that to open the gates on a race night? And if it rains out, is that number still the same?
Nope. On a non-race night, if we rain out, it depends when.
Yeah.
So if it's before you open the gates, we'll for sure lose $12,000.
$12,000. God.
So it's. I'd probably be better off just going up the road here about a mile and going to the casino and throwing my crap on red.
Yeah.
Let's put about $12,000 on red and see how this goes, because that's what it's like owning a racetrack.
Well, I think that's interesting because I think a lot of fans don't understand that aspect. That there's a lot that goes into the decision to rain out or not, because it's a lot harder than, is it raining? Yes, we rain out. No, we don't rain out, because there's drivers that are coming from a long ways away, there's fans that are coming from a long ways away, and there's employees that you got to pay. That if you refund the driver and the fans their money, you're out a lot of money because you got to pay your employees. So I think that's an aspect of racing that doesn't get talked about enough, that it does cost these tracks when they rain out.
Yep, or any outdoor sporting event, really. Yeah. I mean, it's not just racetracks. This is every outdoor sporting event or every outdoor event, concerts, anything, really. So, I think my grandfather had the right idea. He said, I still remember him beating it into my head, but I was too stupid to remember it until recently. But he always told me, never own a business that relies on Mother Nature. You can't trust that bee.
Don't worry, we have a beep button. We'll be inserting that.
So I mean, he's absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, it's anything that relies on Mother Nature is really tough.
Was he alive when you were considering buying Eagle Raceway?
No.
Do you think he would have had something to say if he was still around?
Kind
Do you think he'd have turned to you and said, "You're not doing that"?
Yeah, I kind of had a dream of him chewing my butt one time.
So Grandpa would not have approved. Well, the track has definitely evolved over the years and has continued to be a mainstay for Saturday nights. And that's honestly, I think you can tie that into a lot of what Sunset Speedway is. People talk about how, we miss Sunset and we miss the packed stands and the packed pits. And there's oftentimes I'll say, they have that every Saturday night down at Eagle Raceway. And where a lot of tracks are begging to get 100, 200 fans in the stands and 50 cars in the pits, you guys are tripling those numbers.
Yeah, it's all got to do with the drivers taking ownership of the place, though. Back to that same deal.
Yeah.
I mean, if the drivers didn't care, a lot of the other tracks, they just show up and they want to race. That's it. When the race is over, they pack their stuff up and they head home.
Yeah.
When you go to Eagle Raceway, the drivers hang out, they bring candy, the autograph cards. I mean, This year we got a deal going where we're going to have a scavenger hunt after the races, and every class gets a night, and they'll have a scavenger hunt where the fans get to go through the pit area and try to chase down drivers to get their scavenger hunt card filled out, and then we'll give them a prize the following week, and they get free popcorn or pop or whatever, something.
That's
prize.
Cool. That's something that is very exclusive to dirt racing, where you get to go and meet your hero at the end of the night.
Yep, I want to make sure that they get to go in the pits and see their driver and get a wreck, and then early in the night we'll have at intermission we'll have the drivers go in the stands for that particular class, and they'll get to throw out Frisbee's product, something like that, with their name on it, and hopefully the fan shows back up down in their pit area.
A few years ago, you made a pretty controversial decision. You decided to get rid of the 360 class and to take on this Race Saver class. And I really I kind of enjoyed watching it from afar, because you had the best argument I'd heard anybody say, where people said, well, you can't get rid of the 360 class. And you said, but they're not coming. At one point in time, I think you guys had about 9 to 12 360s that were showing up. And that's just not feasible to continue that. It's a business. I mean, you got to make a decision at some point of, there's just not enough local racers to support a local class.
Yep, I think it was French Grimes that told me that, when I was talking to him about changing to his Race Saver rules on the class that he had built over the years. When I talked to him about it, he had said, I asked him, I go, when do I make this decision? And he says, well, sometimes negative equals positive. And I go, what are you talking about? He says, sometimes less is more. And I'm like, I don't understand. He goes, you just wait, it'll dwindle down. And when it dwindles down enough, you'll know when that is, and then you'll make a decision to try to have more. So when the car count went under 10, I mean, that was kind of the final threshold where I thought I was ripping my fans off.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't so much that I had a problem with the drivers or anything. I mean, we had problems, of course, but I mean, it wasn't so much that. It was really that I honestly felt like I wasn't giving the fans a good enough show, and I was not doing them any good, so I figured I might as well try something else.
Did you talk to the drivers ahead of time and say, hey, listen, if you guys don't pick up the numbers, then we can't continue to run you weekly?
Yeah, it was kind of a money deal at that time. The drivers needed more money. The cars were getting more expensive. Mm-hmm. Well, the motors mostly were getting more expensive. So it was a constant battle of they needed more money. I had to figure out how to pay more money or not pay more money. And it just got to the point where when they'd show up at the races, their wife was pissed. Their credit card was maxed out.
Yeah.
They had no cash in their pocket. They hated the world, and they hated me. So I was at a point where there was really no choice but to try something else.
And that's got to be a tough decision of, when you're trying to help these drivers and you see a good thing on the horizon, but you've got to force them into this move.
Well, I wasn't that confident that I knew it was a good thing at that time. I just knew it was something different. We had to try something because what we were doing wasn't working.
The guy that we're going to talk to next, Mike Boston, was he a proponent of it, an advocate? Was he a fighter of it? Well, at first, because I know there was a lot of guys that fought it when the change was made.
Well, I remember a time in the pit garage with Mike Boston chewing my ass right after the with the announcement and stuff. Are you an effing idiot? This is BS, blah blah blah. But to be honest with you, that was one of the things that made me really proud and probably helped me more than anything with the Race Saver deal was, when we made the announcement and we were able to talk to Mike about it, because he was kind of the leader of sprint car racing at our area, at Eagle Raceway for sure.
Yeah.
And when he kind of understood the dollars and cents of it and where we were trying to go with it and how maybe it would be possibly a better deal, when he really thought about it, he really did get behind it, and that made Mike Boston being behind the Race Saver deal.
Yeah.
That's really what made it happen for us.
And I focused a lot on the change and the decision to make the change and probably some of the friction you got from that. But, we look at it a couple of years after the change has been made. Huge Race Saver Nationals. Biggest car count of the career, correct? This year?
Yeah. This was the biggest one this year. Every year it grows a little bit. I actually made a bet with Knoxville a few years ago that I would have more cars at the Race Saver Nationals than they have at the Knoxville Nationals. Well, we won that damn near right away.
Yeah. And it's something that Stan and I, whenever we're on the show, we love to give Chris Krug grief. Chris Krug's the announcer over at Knoxville Raceway, and we give him grief because Stan Caesar has the largest, Stan is the announcer at the track that has the largest sprint car race in the nation with 200 and some odd cars. And is that the number? It's
127. Yeah. 129.
He was adding 2 years together.
Yeah, I was doubling them up. Anyways, the Knoxville Nationals, while it's a prestigious race, they only get about 55, 60 cars.
Yeah, and they'll split nights. They do a lot of stuff different than we do. We try to make sure all our drivers get to race every night. They get to try to qualify every night. When they're running the Knoxville Nationals, they divide the group up to where they'll have 50 a night. So.
Oh, I was going to say they're a little closer on Saturday night. I know I've only been twice, but each Saturday night I've been there's been like 90 cars each time.
Yeah.
And the weekly car count has been steadily growing. I think in the second year I was looking at it, you had surpassed the 360 car count the final year. And it just continues to grow to where now you've got at least a B feature, sometimes a C feature.
I think we'll probably have – I'd be really surprised if we don't have 40 cars weekly this year in the sprint car class.
And it's all about the money. We talk about that the biggest thing that's holding this sport down right now is the cost, because we talked about every chance people can get to dip their hand into the driver's pockets, they're going to take it. And this is a way that the Race Saver locks down the cost of the car. And the speeds are pretty darn close to a 360.
Kind of more than anything. It is the money, but I think more than that, the rules are efficient to the point where, this is racing. Mm-hmm. You can spend whatever you want to spend. There's really no limit. If a guy wants to spend 20, 30, 40 grand on a Race Saver motor, you can certainly do it. But I don't believe any of those guys who spend 20, 30, 40 grand on a Race Saver motor are going to say that they are head and shoulders above a guy who's building one in his garage.
And that's key. That's going back to Glenn Roby days, like we just talked about with Glenn, of saving the guys money because they can build one in their own shop.
Yeah, and in a way, that's kind of there. There's a lot of crate motor stuff going on around the country, and I'm absolutely not a fan of that. I understand the theory that they want to try to make it to where it's easier on the driver or owner of the car.
Easier on the tech guy is what it's easier on.
Well, it's easier on the tech guy because the problem is it's easier on the tech guy because the tech guys suck and they don't want to tech anything.
I've always felt that way.
Oh, we used to tech plenty.
So the crate deal never gets tech. Well, the Race Saver deal's the opposite, because the crate deal, they're saying, well, it's got a seal on it. It's got to be legal. It can't be cheated up. So the tracks are and their tech guys and stuff are pinned in a corner where you can't be pulling seals off and checking stuff very often. Well, on this Race Saver deal, you can build that in your garage, or you can buy one, or you can buy a used one, and they're sealed, but we're still going to check them.
You guys test them right there on the front stretch every week, top 3, right?
At least, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so it's pretty intense teching, but we're going to wrap things up for today. We got to have you on again because we got to talk about your 2018 season. I know you guys made a big announcement on Facebook when we just before we recorded this that you guys had added the iPower series, the War series to the thaw.
Yeah, we'll start the season off with a pretty spectacular race. I mean, it's going to be the Race Saver sprint cars with the Power Eye, with the War series, wingless.
Right.
And I think it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, it will be. It was, and were they a part of the Nebraska Cup last year? Or
yes.
What race was that?
Yep, Nebraska Cup. They put on a good show. I think if we do it here early in the season like this, I think it's going to be a huge car count. We got another track working with us in Missouri now. That'll be also a new Race Saver track.
Awesome.
And we're gonna run the exact same classes on both a Friday and a Saturday at the end of March.
Well, that'll be big because we got to get one of those. We got to get a local Nebraska Iowa guy to win the national touring, the IMCA national points, and that's tough to do with only one track in this area.
Well, there's actually, you got the US 36 now on a Friday night, Eagle on Saturday, and Sunday up at Stewart, Nebraska. Well, they'll make their announcement here, I think, probably today or tomorrow.
Well, didn't Clint Benson win the national title here just a couple of years ago?
Yes, he did. Well, it's been a few years ago.
Well,
so he has. I'm sorry, I didn't think somebody had won it yet.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It's been a little while ago, back when it was easier.
Well,
it's not that easy now.
It was like when the 305s were first getting started.
Yep, in our area,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
We're going to end it for today, Roger. We do appreciate your time. Always love talking to you. Your honesty is refreshing because so many guys won't say what they think, and I don't have to second guess what you're thinking because you're going to tell me.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Roger Hadan, this week's Legends of the Dirt Series. We're gonna end it for this weekend. For Dirk Houston, myself, Dan Taylor, this has been The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Have you ever watched NASCAR, dirt track, or IndyCar and thought, I could do that? Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs is the place to put your money where your mouth is. Races fire off every 10 minutes, so what are you waiting for? Get to Joe's Karting on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs, next to the Mid-America Center, and find out how easy it is to drive a race car. Each Joe's Karting car is powered by an eco-friendly Honda engine capable of a 14-second lap. That's if you're as good as you think.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Any driver will tell you that the key to winning a race is preventive maintenance. Pat at Eccles Heating and Air can make sure your wallet is on the winning side with a preventive care package. Pat will look over your existing unit and make recommendations to make sure you're toasty warm this winter. Drivers trust Pat at the racetrack with their safety, so you know you can trust him with your home heating. Call Pat today at 402-331-1755 and schedule your heater checkup. Eccles Heating and Air.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.